appreciate that. Well, everybody's excited to get back into school year, I can see. Let's reconvene this regular meeting. If you would, please rise for the invocation and pledge. Dr. Warren?
All right. Thanks for everybody coming out today for our first August board meeting of the new school year. Folks, if you feel comfortable doing so, please pray with me. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. And Lord, we just tell you how much we appreciate being a part of our school district and all the communities that we serve. Lord, we ask you to be with our board members tonight. We ask that you be with all of us tonight, Lord, and see us safely home. And Lord, above all things else, just please provide your love, your guidance, your wisdom, and your protection to our children. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, folks, we have three very special guests. You guys step up to the mic. Our Boy Scouts and in about 2 weeks, future Gene Pike middle schoolers, 6th graders. Caden Price, wave at everybody. Caden, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Caden, David and Mary Price. Mary, David, Mary, thank you for coming. Caden, you like science and art?
Yes.
Very good, Caden. Playing video games? Yes? Okay. Riding bikes, and you like the Boy Scouts. Outstanding. And we have Hayden Robinson. Hayden, wave at everybody. And John and Jenny Robinson. Jenny, thanks for coming. And Hayden likes science. Yes, good. And you like riding dirt bikes and four-wheelers and playing computer games. Nice. And then we have Trey. Trey Zollinger. Trey, wave. There we go. And Eric and Megan. Okay. Trey likes language arts and science, likes sports, Boy Scouts, and camping. Thanks, guys. All right. You guys lead us in the pledges, and we appreciate you doing so.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Outstanding, guys. Stay put right there. We got a little gift for you.
That brings us now to item number 5, recognitions. Dr. Warren.
Board, we have a great way to start off the new year. We have several recognitions. So, Mrs. Conklin, please.
Yes, good evening. Dr. Warren and President Schluter, can you come to the front for recognitions? So at this time, we're going to start by recognizing our Destination Imagination teams that advanced to global finals. We know it takes a great deal of work to prepare for this competition. Last school year, Northwest ISD had 100 teams registered, 32 placed, 6 advanced to state, and 3 qualified for global finals. So first, we would like to start with asking Audra Rao. She is our coordinator for this too. So if you could join us at the front too. All right, so first we'd like to call up our Chisholm Trail Middle School team that placed 8 at Globals. They are led by team manager Tim McClure. So if you want to join us at the front. So we have Aiden Lalani. I'm so sorry, forgive me if I'm saying your names wrong. Carter McClure. Poppy McMaster. I'm going to try my best on this one. Ray Nair, not here? Okay. William Thornell. And Riley Ticcaroni.
Okay. You got it? You over here? I know we have at least 2 parents who want pictures.
Okay, next we'll be recognizing another qualifying team from Medlin Middle School. They are led by their team manager, Lori Baxter. So if you can join us at the front. So we have Medlin students are Gwen Baxter, Regan Ellis, Ryder Fine, Andrew Golden, Ian Hill, and Kurt Ippolito. Did I say that right? Oh, right. Congratulations. A few more. And last, we have another qualifying team from Thompson Elementary School, and they are led by Marcy Conrad. So if you can join us at the front. And their advancing students were Chloe Goad, Nick Hebert, Evelyn Kenny, Angel Lira, Keely Smith, Clarissa Strong, and Aiden Stover. All right. Congratulations to all of our Destination Imagination teams. I know that's a lot of work. So next we'd like to recognize our Northwest ISD Gates teacher, and that's Marcy Conrad. We'll ask her principal to join us at the front, Leanne Romer, Dr. Romer. Ms. Conrad has been selected as the Department of Texas Veterans of Foreign Wars winning entry in the VFW SMART Mayor National Citizenship Education Teacher Program for 2016-17. As a state winner, she received recognition at the 97th Annual State Convention held in Houston this June. Dr. Romer, her principal, tells us she provides numerous opportunities for Thompson Elementary School students on Veterans Day and during election season, teaching the students how to debate instead of argue and how to research. Congratulations. All right. Next, I would like to ask Dr. Rob Thornell, Ms. Christy King, principal of Roanoke Elementary School, along with two of her teachers, Holly Garza and Kelly Mitchell, as well as Mrs. Yolanda Wallace, principal of Prairie View Elementary School, and two from her staff, Amanda Hughes and Natalie Span, to join us at the front. And I believe we also have a representative from Into Learning, Dr. Ken Helvey. So Prairie View and Roanoke Elementary Schools have received distinction as Schools Transforming Learning by the Principals Institute, honoring each school's commitment to providing innovative educational services. Just 19 schools across Texas were named to the 2017 Schools Transforming Learning list, and the campuses were recognized at the Institute Summer Conference in early June. All right. Next, I would like to invite members from the Communications Department. We have Communications and Multimedia Specialist Rachel Bobbitt, Communication and Web Specialist Melissa Shawn, and Communication Specialist Anthony Tosi to the front. This year, the team earned 5 awards from the National School Public Relations Association for Publication and Media. Northwest ISD's recently redesigned website received an Award of Excellence and was one of just 5 in the nation to receive this. Additionally, the district's Northwest News e-newsletter received an Award of Excellence. The 2017 Bond video received an Award of Merit, and a Profile of the Educator video in the district's Northwest Vision printed newsletter received an honorable mention. This is the 5th consecutive year the department has received national awards from nearly 1,000 entries across the nation. Okay, and finally, we would like to ask Byron Nelson High School Associate Principal Todd Rogers to come to the front. We also have, I believe his principal, Dr. Ron Myers, is here from Byron. I thought I saw you. There you are. Come on, join us at the front. And we have members from our Northwest ISD Council of PTAs here with us this evening. You guys can join us at the front as well. So Dr. Rogers has received, the Texas PTA has named him its secondary principal of the year for his work promoting student success through family and community engagement. He was recognized at the Talk of Texas luncheon in Houston last month. As I'm reading that, we have members of our PTA here with us this evening. So we just want to say we truly value and appreciate the work that you do for us in Northwest ISD and for our students. So thank you. And that is all for recognitions this evening.
Wow, somebody say meeting adjourned and I missed it. That moves us down to item number 6, which is public participation. And we do have one person that has requested to speak. That's Mr. Jerry Burkett. If you would, give me a few minutes, Mr. Burkett. I get to read this. This is it right here. Pardon me while I bore you for a moment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Trustees on any matter, whether it is not posted or it is on the agenda. Pursuant to Board policies BED Legal and BED Local, the Board of Trustees may place reasonable constraints on the number, length, and frequency of the presentations, so long as it does not unfairly discriminate among speakers based on a viewpoint. The Board of Trustees is not permitted to take action or discuss any presentations made to the Board of Trustees at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. If a member of the public or the Board inquires about a subject for which the notice has not been given, the Board may only make a statement of specific factual information or recite existing policy in response to the inquiry. So the presentation of any member of the public is limited to 3 minutes. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views before the Board. So with that, Mr. Burkett, if you would please state your name and address for the record and begin.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Dr. Warren, President, members of the Board. My name is Dr. Jerry Burkett. I'm the Assistant Dean and Professor of the School of Education at the University of North Texas at Dallas. I live in Fort Worth at 12737 Outlook Avenue. I'm the proud parent of an incoming 5th grader at Granger Elementary. I'd like to bring to the board's attention a matter of concern related to the amount of recess time allotted to fifth grade students. District policy concerning daily physical activity for elementary students, as found in EHAB Legal, recommends 30 minutes of physical activity daily. Yet according to posted schedules on district elementary school web pages, 8 elementary campuses allow the full 30 minutes of recess for fifth grade students, while 4 campuses only allow between 10 and 25 minutes of recess. The remaining campuses did not post their schedules. Your policy provides flexibility if 30 minutes of daily activity is impractical due to scheduling. As a former principal of a large elementary campus, I appreciate the need for flexibility. However, this leniency and reliance on loose policy has produced inconsistency among your campuses. At those 8 campuses providing full recess time, fifth graders benefit from a large body of research that explicitly demonstrates the importance of daily recess, yet fifth graders at the remaining campuses don't receive that benefit and are impacted negatively. The focus of my research and study at UNT Dallas is brain learning and multiple intelligences. I donate time training in local ISDs about how the brain learns and retains information. I urge my trainees to provide time for increased physical activity and recess and to ensure students are moving throughout the school day. Recess research is sound and ubiquitous. The American Academy of Pediatrics finds recess provides significant cognitive, academic, social, emotional, and physical benefits for students. The AAP further states recess should not be withheld for punitive or academic reasons, and minimizing recess is, quote, counterproductive to academic achievement, close quote. Simply put, the brain was designed for movement. It's critical to brain function and improves thinking and engagement. When a student is provided physical activity breaks, they re-engage their brain for preparation for learning. The lenient policy has allowed schools to ignore this important aspect of brain development in favor of scheduling flexibility, and that trade-off harms students. I've recently discovered that a mere 10-minute recess for fifth graders has been a long-standing practice at Granger. According to the principal, the shorter recess, quote, allows the teachers to meet the required instructional minutes and add a little more time for science, quote, close quote. It's highly ironic, unfortunate, and disappointing that Granger ignores scientific research in the name of providing more science instruction. I encourage the board to work with NISD administrators to research and adopt a suitable recess policy that ensures all elementary students fully benefit from daily physical activity. Please recognize what years of peer-reviewed educational research clearly tells us and give every elementary child across all grade levels and all campuses the appropriate and equitable recess time they require for brain development. Thank you.
Very good. And Dr. Burkett, is this a good daytime number to get a hold of you if we need to follow up with you?
No, sir. I actually put my home number. I can provide a cell phone number.
Okay. If you'll provide, please, we'd like that.
Great.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Dr. Burkett. Appreciate your information. Moving down to item number 7, which is consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. President,
Mr. Fuller?
I ask that we hold off item Q, Memorandum of Understanding with North Central Texas College for Dual Credit Partnership, until later in the board meeting for further discussion.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, we will honor that request and pull out item number Q for consideration later.
And with that, I would like to move to approve the consent agenda as submitted with the exception of item Q.
A motion has been made by Mr. Fuller, seconded by Dr. Simpson, to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item number Q. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Please note that Dr. Roush is not present tonight.
Thank you, board.
Moving on to item number 8, which is our discussion action items. Under A, the 2017-2018 District Improvement Plan. Dr. Warren.
Board, your proposed plan begins on page 198 in your packet. If you remember, this was presented to you during whenever our last board meeting was, way back when. On page 266 in your packet begins my PowerPoint that I went over for you. I'll just call your attention to page 274 in your packet. This is where we laid out the district improvement plan. We have your 5 strategic goals, and board, this is kind of a point of pride for you guys, except for Steve and I. The rest of you were involved in the creation of the strategic plan, and this will be the 4th plan of the 4-year strategic plan to be the fourth plan to be adopted from that strategic plan, and as we begin our new one. So you've done you have been able to generate 4 district improvement plans from that strategic plan that was passed 4 years ago. So very good job. We have the 5 standing strategic goals. We have looked at 20 different performance objectives we would like to address with our plan, and we have 43 strategies in which we would like to obtain those performance objectives. On page 275 in your packet, it begins with the strategic goal number 1, talking about the dynamic learning experiences, and you have 6 distinct objectives that we will do our best to fulfill. Goal 2, talking about our people, our personnel, making sure we have the most highly motivated staff in this state or in this country. And you have 3 goals and performance objectives on Goal 2. Goal number 3, we are talking about the need to communicate in a timely, open manner with all of our stakeholders. And you have 3 very good performance objectives for Goal 3. Goal 4 talks about supporting the facilities. And of course, we just made a major step in that with the passage of the bond. But there's 3 performance objectives for Goal 4, talking about facilities. And then the final goal is just talking about being good stewards, especially with our tax dollars. And you have 5 performance objectives, and that takes into consideration all 20. I think it's a very good plan. And one of the things that I'm very proud of, a lot of very good work was done between your administrative team and the district planning team, the DEIC, to create this plan. I believe it's going to be much more than a checkoff. It's going to really guide us, and it is also going to allow us the time and effort to really help concentrate on our campus improvement plans as well. And so I'm very pleased to present this to you. I would recommend that you approve it as your 2017-2018 district improvement plan.
Mr. President.
Mr. Fuller.
I move the adoption of the 2017-18 District Improvement Plan objectives and measurements as recommended by the administration.
Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. Fuller, seconded by Ms. Kopp. For the motion as read, is there any further discussion on this? Lots of information here that we've covered a couple times, so I think Mr. Sproles memorized the whole district improvement plan set, so we appreciate you. Anything else? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Moving to number 8B, TASB Policy Update 107, affecting local policies. And we're going to look at the attached list. Dr. Warren.
Board, if you remember, Mrs. Hobbs did an excellent job during last meeting describing to you, first of all, she described the legal, which was many legal updates in number 107, and this came from the last legislative session. No? Okay, no, the one before that. Some of them, yeah, they usually work about 2 years behind from TASB's point of view. But she went over the legal, which, Steve, it's your board's responsibility and the superintendent's responsibility to definitely review the legal policies in each TASB update. And then on page 285, board, is a list of local policies that you're being asked to approve. If you remember, Christy recommended that you approve the TASB recommendation, the language from TASB recommendation on 9 of those. There was one unique policy that we are asking you to recommend, CDC local, correct, Christy? And that just the TASB in the state is asking us to do we allow or do we not allow crowdfunding? And it was a unanimous vote by the administrative staff for the principals that we do not allow crowdfunding. So CDC will be a policy X. It'll be notated with an X that is a unique policy for us. So after your questions on any of either the legal or local updates to the policy, I will recommend that you approve those 10 local policies from Update 107.
Mr. Wright.
To adopt and approve board policy update 107 to add revising the legal policies recommended by TASB Policy Service. The changes are recommended by the administration.
A motion has been made by Mr. Wright, seconded by Mr. Fuller for the motion as read. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Moving to 8C, the resolution declaring hazardous transportation conditions for the 2017-2018 school year. Dr. Warren.
Board, the information on our proposed hazardous routes, designation of hazardous routes beginning on page 336 in your packet. The actual list of routes begin on page 337 and go through 339. Dana, any comments on this?
Nope, it's the same thing we bring to you every year. There are no changes to our hazardous areas this year, so it's the same 24 areas that we've had in the previous years. We did update it last year, and we did survey the district again this year with no additions. So,
Board, I would recommend approval of this year's hazardous routes.
Mr. President,
Ms. Scott.
I move to approve the resolution declaring hazardous transportation conditions for the 2017-18 school year as recommended by the administration.
A motion has been made by Ms. Kopp, seconded by Dr. Simpson. Is there any further discussion on this item? I do have a question for Dana. Were there any issues on the areas that we designated last year? Do we have any problems with any of those?
No, none at all, actually. No parents' concerns all year long, so I think we've pretty much taken care of most of the areas. So
that's awesome. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Moving down to item 8D, consideration of possible action to approve the recommendations of the superintendent as presented to propose termination of the employment contract of Suzanne Pedinalt for the good cause as determined by the board and sent notice of the proposed termination. Dr. Warren.
Board, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation of the superintendent and administration as presented to propose termination of the employment contract of Susan Pedinalt for good cause as determined by the board and the president of the board to send notice to the proposed termination pursuant of the Texas Education Code 21.211 and board policy DFBA. That is our recommendation.
Mr. Wright.
I move to approve the recommendation of the superintendent as presented to propose termination of Suzanne Pedinalt's contract for good cause determined by the board. Send notice of the proposed termination to her. Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. Wright, seconded by Mr. Fuller for the motion as read. Any further discussion on this item? I will say that we take these things very serious, and unfortunately they are very rare. Anything else? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Moves us down to 8E, legal updates to the 2017-2018 Student Code of Conduct. Dr. Warren.
Board, if you remember, Dr. Susie McNeese did an excellent job presenting this to you, and you actually approved the Student Code of Conduct. And Susie, what did the legislature do to us?
They just gave us some more opportunities, really to make kids safe. And so a lot of the things that you will be seeing this time are about kids' safety.
So Dr. McNeese is going to go over the changes that have been made this summer from the legislative standpoint, and then I will ask that you approve again our code of conduct so that we can start school with the approved document.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schluter and board. Just a general overview of the updates from the last time that we met in June. We're looking at some bullying and cyberbullying, some new definitions, some new consequences, restricted knives, discipline under the 3rd grade for children, ejecting guests from school property, teacher electronic communications with students, and minor updates. The first one that I'm sure that you all are aware of is David's Law, which addresses bullying and cyberbullying. It was named after a student, unfortunately, who did commit suicide after being cyberbullied. It expands the definition of bullying, and it requires schools to adopt procedures for responding, which we have, and also it creates some civil and criminal consequences for students that participate in this type of bullying. The new definition is a single significant act or pattern of acts. And that single significant act is the real difference for our students. In the past, it's more been about a pattern. It can be by one or more students, directed at another student that exploits an imbalance of power and involves engaging in written or verbal expression through electronic means or physical conduct that does one of four things. So the four caveats of this are physically harming a student, damaging the student's property, or places the student in reasonable fear of physical harm or property damage. It is so severe that persistent or pervasive that it creates an abusive, threatening, or intimidating educational environment for a student, or materially and substantially disrupts the educational process or school operations, or infringes on the rights of a victim at school. The school jurisdiction has also been expanded for cyberbullying. It now extends to if it occurs off of school property, outside of school activities, if the conduct does interfere with a student's educational opportunities or it substantially disrupts the operations of a school classroom or school-related activity. So you can see that's a much broader scope than we're accustomed to. What is cyberbullying? It's the use of electronic communication, which can consist of a plethora of means. They're pretty broad in those terms too, because we're constantly seeing new types of electronics or communications that are affecting kids. The schools must adopt policies and procedures for students to anonymously report bullying. I noticed that the tip line had not been in the student code of conduct, so I did add that in. We also notify parents of a bullying victim on or before the third day after an incident is reported, and we also notify parents of an alleged bully within a reasonable time after the incident. So, consequences. School-wise, a student can be placed in DAEP under if they're engaging in bullying that encourages the student to commit or attempt suicide, if it incites violence against a student through group bullying, or releasing or threatening to release intimate visual material of a minor or adult student without the student's consent. Some of the potential parental responses to bullying and cyberbullying. Now court actions can be involved, temporary restraining orders. A victim can seek a court order as well. And so I know Christy Hobbs will be working with our administrators on how we're going to react and how we're going to investigate these types of things. The restricted knife, this was a fun one. It's appeared 7 times in the student handbook and code of conduct. It used to say illegal knife, and now the term is location restricted knife, because the knife itself is not illegal. It's where you're using the knife that is. Discipline under 3rd grade, no out-of-school suspension for students below the 3rd grade unless they commit an offense at school or a school activity that's really a much higher caliber of offense than we've had in the past for students for out-of-school suspension. So we're looking at weapon offenses, assault, sexual assault, aggravated assault, marijuana, drugs, or it also this House Bill 674 also authorizes schools to implement a positive behavior program, which we are doing. Ejecting guests. That sounds kind of funny. If they're our guests, we might eject them. Before it was anybody that we felt was really undesirable, and now we have some new caveats. We can eject a person who poses a substantial risk of harm to any person or behaves in a manner that's inappropriate for the school setting, is warned, and persists in the behavior. And we have procedures in place for that. This next item has been in our employee handbook. But when I was reviewing the TASB model, I came across this and noticed it was not in our student handbook. And it's about teacher electronic communications with students. And there are really certain criteria that a teacher has to follow in order to be able to have electronic communications with students. For example, a teacher can set up a social networking page for their class related to classwork, homework. Parents are welcome to join or become a member of such. However, Text messages sent to an individual student are only allowed if a district employee with responsibility for an extracurricular activity needs to communicate with the student participating in the extracurricular activity. And there are 3 prongs that will be added to that. One is the employee is required to include at least one of the student's parents. Also, they have to include their immediate supervisor, and they also need to include their own district email address.
Dr. McNeese, on this, you said we do have a district policy on this. Does it match up with how this reads here?
Yes, it does, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, there are some districts that will just adopt 1 or 2 of these. You can adopt all 3, and as a district, we've adopted all 3. Additional handbook updates, I'm not going to go through all of them because some of them we've already addressed. The only one that was a little different is when reviewing the TASB model is on student dress code. In the past, we had a clause that said no gang apparel, but that is not definitive. And one of the things that they recommended is to remove that, and if we do find certain types of clothing that's going to represent a gang, that the principals keep a track of that, and then we're not discriminating against anyone for what they wear. Do you all have any questions? I know I get to do the fun stuff.
How do we present this to our students? Is it just a handbook? Is it presented to our older kids what the code of conduct is, or is it just?
That's a good question, Judy. One thing, we do have this available online for students once it's approved. We'll also have hard copy. When students are registering, we are asking them to have perused the handbook, and they assign that they are aware of what's in it and that they're also being accountable for it. But I would probably guess that especially with the bullying, that there's probably going to be some conversations with our counselors and our administrators with students.
Board, I'd recommend approval of the student code of conduct as presented.
Mr. President?
Ms. Kopp.
I move to approve the 2017-18 Student Code of Conduct and the legal updates as recommended by the administration.
Second.
A motion has been made by Ms. Kopp, seconded by Dr. Simpson for the motion as read. Any further discussion on this item? I'll say that bullying has always been a problem, but with the cyberbullying, it's escalated to a whole new level. So I appreciate you guys being very, very proactive on this. And it's so important to keep our students engaged and not interfered from outside sources.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Moving down to 8F, the 2017-2018 Campus Improvement Goals and Objectives. Dr. Warren?
Board, your information on the campus improvement plans begin on page 477 with the first plan beginning on page 478. And then after several pages later, our presentation begins on 1,232 in your packet. Dr. Ferris, please.
Good evening, Dr. Warren and Board. We have your annual update of our campus improvement plan process. We'll give you an overview tonight for discussion and then naturally entertain any questions you may have. As a reminder, our campus improvement plans are based on a process. As you look through your packets and begin to review the campus improvement plans, you'll note that all plans are based on a comprehensive needs assessment that's built into our Plan for Learning software. One clarification, you'll see some campuses are at differing levels of that. Some of them are waiting on data. We received a batch of data even today for distinction reports and things of that fashion. However, in September, when we start our problem of practice and go through the protocols with that, they should have all the data they have for the year completed and their needs assessment completed so they can enter into the process with a completed needs assessment. Each campus, as I said, will identify a problem of practice or instructional focus. And in September, the first part of our professional learning community learning cycles for both elementary and secondary will be going through a protocol where they will have some peer review of their problems of practice and how they align with their campus plans. They are aligned to the district goals and objectives that we approved earlier this evening, and the campus plans are a continual plan for improvement. We have really stressed with our principals in the last couple of years that their plans should not change appreciably from year to year. They should be a revision process, and then we add things as we need to, and we move things into completion mode as we're able to complete those. Some of the basic requirements that are outlined from both the state and federal requirements is that each year a principal, along with their campus level committee, is required to develop, review, and revise the campus improvement plans. And so with those three functions, that definitely gives the idea of continuous improvement, which is our intent. The purpose of campus improvement plans is really kind of two-part there. We have one bullet and one bold, but it is to improve student performance for student populations, and it gives a very specific expectation that this includes all special education students with respect to academic excellence indicators and other accountability factors, and other appropriate performance measures for those special needs populations, and that really comes out in our accountability discussions too when we talk about PBMAS and other factors like that. That's where a lot of these campus plans are focused. And they are intended naturally to be supportive and in alignment with the district improvement plan. Back to the comprehensive needs assessment, as I said, each plan is built initially on this needs assessment where the campus is able to look at progress, look at needs, and it takes them through a very calculated checklist that they work through, looking at such things as academic excellence indicators. Other appropriate measures of performance are disaggregated out by student groups. Some examples there: ethnicity, socioeconomic status, gender, population served by special programs, and special education students as well, just to name a few of those categories. The requirements for each plan include this process, and you'll see that reflected in some screenshots that we have here in a moment with our software that helps us manage that. But it has campus performance objectives. You should see some common language with those objectives that align to the district objectives that are there. There are also both some formative and summative evaluations throughout the process, but we are required to have a summative evaluation each year, as well as the strategies that we're going to specifically target for improvement, the staff that are responsible for ensuring that these strategies move forward, and a very specific timeline that has a firm start, has formative checks throughout, and has a completion where we'll review our progress for the year. Other special campus planning requirements that we have is we do have to accommodate and look at very specific federal requirements, as well as special education or state compensatory education. Those are specific strategies that we align to those intents that identify specific groups of students. And as we said, it does align to the district improvement plan. Specifically, we've stressed what we call the Big Four. I know there are more, but we look specifically at how do we support early literacy, advanced academics, both participation and performance, as well as PBMAS monitoring and interventions, and the academic distinctions that we had some initial news on today. So an example of what part of the screenshot that our principals and our administrative staff can view. Just kind of take you through a few of these. It will restate a goal. That goal 2 should look very familiar to you. And then the performance objective. This is one for Northwest High School that aligns back to a goal number 2. And then there is a summative evaluation that they're able to look at and even to move forward towards the end of the year at what are some recommendations for next year. You can see that the sample that we have here, I'm going to read this closer screen if it's all right. It's kind of small. Talks about NHS administration and department chairs will provide teachers with verbal and or written feedback at least once each 6 weeks on T-test goals, walkthroughs, lesson plans, and so that's a baseline expectation that the campus has. You'll see there that those that are involved with monitoring that include administration, department chairs. Some of the strategies that they will have and the resultant impact is they're looking to build teacher efficacy, student progress, and monitoring that day to day, as well as building on teacher morale. On the right side, you'll see there are some templates there that will house an October, December, and February formative review, specifically targeting evidence towards that project. progress. Can't be, I think we're doing well. I feel like we're doing well. With T-tests moving forward and even T-tests for our administrators, it's really driving that we have to specifically look at evidence that's there. And so through those 3 formative checks, we would expect to see that at the formative evaluation, we're able to measure what the progress over that time period is. So just another example of how we do. I think I had another one in there, but it's pretty much the same. They look very much alike. There they are. It is there. So another goal, too, we see that NHS will provide relevant, timely feedback. Again, it's a focus on feedback for the campus. And so each of the performance objectives would have a formative check that we would look at each of those times of the year. And then at the end of the year, we would be able to evaluate that campus plan, set some things in motion as goals for not only the summer professional learning that's going forward, but we would hope to make transition and interventions along the way. At the end of the day, we're looking at our campus improvement plans, providing the excellence for all that we expect in preparing students to be ready for college, global workplace, and personal success. Be happy to entertain any questions.
I had one, I guess, and it's more of just from your perspective, as we've used this plan for learning now, 2-3 years, I guess?
Since I've been here. This will be the 3rd year.
So how has this changed the way administrators look at the campus improvement plans as far as, not a taxing deal, but really informational, or has this plan worked better, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I think you separate. I would expect that our planning is getting better, more focused, more specific. With reference to the instrument, the software that we use, I can speak as a principal. It was a game changer for me because it really built in the expectation that those formative checks are going. It is very easy to start a plan this time of year. Everything's presented, is shared, and accepted. And when October gets here, we're in the groove of school and we can get distracted very well. And so the whole intent of those formative checks is to keep us continually refocusing and also to have an opportunity to build in interventions. And I have stressed with the secondary folks as much as I can this year, and will continue to, that if there are not mid-course corrections along the way, then your plan is either not being used effectively or it was perfect and I needed to read it even more closely and look at it. And so I would say the software definitely helps. I think between TPAS and TTAS and that evaluation system and helping us move forward, as well as very clear expectations from the superintendent goals, has helped us align our goals much better. We still need more focus. We need more progress monitoring along the way, but all the tools are there for us.
Thanks.
Could you talk just a minute about the amount of time that the team would spend on it, and then the amount of time that you might spend in conversation with the leadership?
Definitely. We would expect that the campus spends the majority of the time with that. It's very intended to be very specific to their context, very specific to their goals, within the umbrella of the superintendent's goals and those that are handed down by the board. This process begins early in the summer, where maybe the principal and their administrative team begins to create what that focus will be and really reflecting on last year's progress and moving forward. And then we have Leadership Academy typically in mid-July, where we really bring them forward and we start to create that focus even more. If there's any adjustment to Dr. Warren's plan or any fine-tuning he has, that's an opportunity for him to share it with us at that time. And then we move through the needs assessment process, where they're actually pulling in data specific to their campus. And that could be state assessment data, that could be AP testing. But some of that secondary data does not come in until the summer and even as late as now. And so they're still going through that needs assessment process. But the idea for the needs assessment is really to identify, are they really targeting the greatest needs on their campus and able to prioritize them? By the time we have school started, there should be a common understanding of what that's going to look like, and then we really refine it with honing it down to specifically what is our problem of practice and being able to move forward. So it does take several months to do so. It's going to vary. I will never speak on behalf of Dr. Griffin and her team, because the elementary is going to approach this in a similar fashion, but we'll have different needs that they have there. From a secondary standpoint, it is a challenge to make sure that you have that committee approach to things where you're pulling in parents, community leaders, teachers, et cetera. And once school gets started, our job is to really execute that. But at those formative checks, we want to take some time to pause and do that. And so from a continuous improvement standpoint, it needs to be ongoing. The time, I would say, is all year long and year to year to year, to where we do have a strategic approach to that could extend even to a 3-year picture of what we're looking at. The actual details they have it, once we have a strong plan that is aligned, the refinement piece should just be some maintenance along the way each year. That answers your question, I hope.
I might add, look what campuses act in different ways. Some of the principals like to use this time for campus professional development, to do those needs assessments, and have conversations with staff and others. We've had several campuses that have done retreats and done things on their own this summer. They may be a little further ahead. Requested for Dr. Warren, possibly maybe making it accommodating September next year about those different types of needs assessment and photography go on. That may be something we can request later on. Also, like to put out Dr. Alexander's going to bring real time to Title I campuses. They have specific checks they have to go through on that. That's their needs.
All right, team, this is a discussion only. This is for you to review. I'm sure it'll take Mr. Sproles at least 2 more days to get through all of the 28 plans. But we will bring this back to you the second August meeting for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ferris. Moving now to 8G, the project procurement, CM at risk for elementary number 19. Dr. Warren.
Well, I hope this is going to be a very interesting presentation for you. With the passage of the bond in November of 2016, part of the projects that we promised to our stakeholders and to our students, we're going to build 4 new elementary schools, and we feel it's time to look at the footprints again of our elementary schools, the design, and go to a different design model. And I think this is going to be a very interesting process. We've already started working. Tim has done a great job of starting to get a design team together. We started talking to architects, and this also causes the need to look at a different build model as well. And Tim is going to present this to you about this project coming up, Elementary 19, and then on through the next projects, and ask your permission to go with a specific building procurement procedure that I don't think we've done in a while.
We've done it. It's
been in a while, but I think it's going to be very interesting as we go through this process. So, yes. Mr. McClure, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. Dr. Warren. So this is, I presented this, or at least a very similar presentation of this a while back to just kind of refresh everybody on the delivery systems allowed to us. So I'm going to go back through that and then kind of just walk through why we are recommending the delivery system that we are for the upcoming, at least the upcoming elementary school. The new prototype design. So lots of stuff to cover here. I'll try not to get down in the weeds too much unless you want me to. There is enabling legislation prior to 1995 that we were required as school districts to do competitive bidding. And then in 1995, the legislator changed and gave that, decentralized that authority and returned it back to the management of schools and local school districts. What we ultimately end up with from 95 through about 2011, they kind of tinkered with it just almost every legislative session. And basically there's 2 areas of governance that we have for procurement in general for the school district. The Texas Education Code, you see there, section 44031, and Government Code, chapter 2269. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about each of those. We'll cover the Government Code first. This consolidates procurement methods to public works and the construction types. It's that local governments selecting, and that includes the districts, obviously, and it includes traditional competitive procurement methods. There are the construction and public work methods that are allowable through the Government Code, Chapter 2269. You see competitive bidding, competitive civil proposals, construction management agent, construction manager at risk, design build, and job order contracting. And those are the 6 I'll cover in some brevity, but in some in more depth as we get a little bit further in. But just remember, those are the 6 when it comes to construction projects. And then they changed. It used to say the governmental entity may consider now, or it used to say shall, now it says may. And then when you get over to the other legislative piece, then it actually says you shall. So we kind of go back and forth. We try to cover all bases, and we cover just about everything that's here pretty much under the shall side. But you'll see the criteria there. Everything is listed: the price, the experience and reputation, the quality, the impact of the ability to comply with the rules and regulations under the historically utilized businesses, the safety record, the personnel. I mean, there's kind of the criteria of what we consider when we go through a qualifications standpoint. Then we jump over to Texas Education Code, and there it modified the basic purchasing statutes for school districts. This section is where it introduced the concept of best value procurement, meaning not going low bids. You award based on the overall best value for anything over $25,000 or more. The school districts were granted the flexibility of choosing from a list of available methods, and then they may choose more than one delivery method if there are multiple projects, meaning every project that comes out of the bond doesn't have to be delivered in the same methodology if we don't think that's the best methodology for that project. And then most recently, back to that shall legislation that I was talking about versus the may or the shall. So here's the education code right now. And really what we're focused on here is that number 5, method provided by Chapter 2269 Government Code for construction services. Everything else there is all under how we procure anything. And Mark would be happy, I'm sure, to give you a presentation on all that. I'm going to speak specifically to number 5 there on how we procure construction services. Here is what we shall consider based on the Texas Education Code. The purchase price, the reputation of the vendor, quality of goods and services, the same stuff there, meeting the district's needs, the relationship with the district, the impact or the ability to comply with laws and rules related to historically underutilized businesses, the long-term cost to the district to acquire the goods and services, and any other relevant factors specifically listed in the request for proposals. So, in kind of reviewing that, construction contract other than competitive bidding, so we can always do competitive bidding, but other than that, these are things that have to happen if we're going in any other manner than an actual, what you would refer to as low bid or competitive bidding. One, we have to advertise and select the method. You have to advertise and select the method and delegate the authority prior to us going out there. So we have to actually advertise what we're doing, the methodology we're doing it, and you have to delegate that authority to administration, or if you want to keep the authority, you can do that as well. You have to determine which method provides the best value. You have to publish those requests and proposals for qualifications and the criteria and the applicable weighted value for each of those criteria has to be in the actual RFQ. And then the document the basis of selection and make the evaluations public not later than the 7th day. So all that stuff, when we've delivered competitive seal proposals, how we've done just about, well, I think everything since I've showed up, we've been doing competitive seal proposal. You see that packet of stuff before we bring a construction contract to you that shows you the committee, you selected that, or we bring it to you, you approve that, we cite the criteria, the weighted value for each, who's on the committee, you delegate that authority to the committee, and we bring that back to you. So we show that process, that document, the basis of selection when we bring that to you for award. So here's the 6 systems. We traditionally, as a district, have used 3 of these. So I'm going to talk real briefly, just while we're on this slide, about the 3 we traditionally haven't used in a very, very long time. Maybe years ago, we used some of these, and one of those first ones would be that competitive bidding there. Obviously, before 1995, district used competitive bidding. What I would say about competitive bidding is that it's got its pros and cons. They all do. The pro is obviously you're going to get a really low price, and the con is you're going to get a really low price and maybe what you're paying for, right? So there's no basis of qualifications. It's low bid, low bid, low bid. So that's what usually makes us most nervous about why we traditionally, at least I'll say in the modern era, say since 2000 of this district when all the growth started hitting, that's traditionally why we haven't used competitive bidding. So let me gray that one out and move on to construction manager agency. So construction manager agency, Again, allows you a pretty fast procurement. It does allow you to bid, to award based on qualification, so you're not just taking low bid at that point. The problem here is, or the concern that most districts have and that I have on the con side, is you are now eliminating a contractor. The district is going to carry and be the agent for every subcontractor, so you have to you're basically a general contractor. You're letting subcontracts with every trade that comes onto your site. The construction manager is just working as an agent who helps you in that process. So there's no more go-between. The district now becomes a construction manager and has individual contracts with every one of the trades. And why I have every confidence in Sarah Stewart and our construction team, I don't want to be in that position. We want to make sure that we have the construction manager signing those contracts to those subs. And then the last one there, before we move on to the other three that I'll go in a little more detail on, is design build. And design build does provide some benefits, of which is it's one team. It's the architect, the engineers, and the contractor are all on one team. So you select that team overall, and it allows you to move very fast. The one, I think, biggest negative against that is that you lose that ability to have kind of your architect in your ear on one issue and your contractor in your ear on the other issue, because they're now teamed. The traditional models that you see up there, you're going to have your architect and design team as a separate contract with you, the district, and then the contractor as a separate contract with you and the district. So they're not teamed together. So you get a little bit more information from either side if you run into, a conflict in the design process or the build process. So that's kind of why those three traditionally have not been used here in the district. Any question about those three that I grayed out before we move on to the other ones? Okay.
Just for clarification,
yes.
On the competitive sealed proposal, you would still have clarification as to what the proposal needed to include, correct?
Yes, absolutely, and I'll get into that. I think right here. Yes, competitive sealed proposal. So here's the quick points on it. Similar to competitive bid. The district does select the architect to design the project, so you would do that before you go out to select who's going to build the project. After the documents are fully complete, then you send those out and lump sum prices are selected as a part of that. So that is part of the portion of it being a low bid process. However, you're going to weight that bid number against their qualifications. And there's no legislation that tells you how to weight that. So as a district, we've traditionally done a 50% weight of the bid and a 50% weight of the qualifications, and that seems to have worked out well for us so far. And then what you can see here is here's kind of the graphics. You kind of see how everything's organized. So you design, then you go out and you bid, and you select that contractor, and then you construct, and then you can see the org chart there, and where you have the general contractor has a direct contract with the district, the architecture and engineering team has a direct contract with the district, and then of course all the sub-trades report straight to the general contractor. Pros and cons: selection flexibility, defined project scope, single point of responsibility for construction. This is a good thing. And you get that aggressive bidding nature in there because it is competitive sealed. So no design team phasing or design phase teaming, meaning you don't get the benefit of having that contractor on board at the beginning of your design process to help you work through maybe some of those details and things. Contractor's going to see that as it comes out from bid. And a little bit longer duration because you're waiting to design it before you bid it, and then a little bit longer bid process with a few steps required in there. Okay, construction manager at risk. This serves as where the general contractor is assuming the risk for the construction and is giving the district a guaranteed maximum price, the GMP that you'll often refer to. The district, Northwest ISD, has delivered this method for years out here, and I think it's a very good method, and I stack it up against competitive sealed proposal pretty equally, just depending on what the project is that we're going after. CM at risk, or the CM is responsible for the project cost and the schedule, so they own that portion of it. They provide the design phase services in evaluating cost, schedule, constructability, and alternatives. So the nice thing about it is the contractor that you're going to have build the building is at the design table with you. So they can help provide solutions, they can give you cost estimates, and that's a great thing because they're responsible for the cost, as you see in the bullet point right above that. The selection is based on criteria. Of course, there's nothing to bid at that point, so you're basing it on the qualifications and the experience, and then they do bid their fee. So it's not really they're bidding the job, but they're going to tell you what their construction management fee is for that job. There's the flow chart. So you can see you're hiring the construction manager at the front of design, so they're in that process with you, and then collectively you're going to bid it out to the subs. So this is where you want to make sure that if you do go construction manager at risk, your construction manager at risk has a very well, or is very well represented in the subcontractor community. If they've got a really good following, then this is a great process, because that's where they're going to get their competitive nature for this, is when the subs come and start turning in their numbers when they actually bid it. Same organizational structure, architect and engineer on one side, contractually, contractor on the other side, and the subs that then report to the general contractor. Pros and cons, selection flexibility, design phase assistance, which is really nice. The single point of responsibility, you're not dealing with each subcontractor. Change flexibility, it allows you, because they're giving you a guaranteed maximum price, so if there is some problems during the construction that are defined in the documents, then you're able to handle that because they've guaranteed that maximum price for you. If there's something that occurs outside of the construction documents, an unknown, then that's where a change order may come in, but that's usually not a concern. It's a team concept. It's a faster delivery schedule. You can often release like a civil package or structural package during this process as the design's completing, if you need to go ahead and get things moving on the ground. The cons is it removes some of the competitive nature of bidding. Again, going back to my statement, is you got to trust that your general contractor has a very good following of subcontractors, so that's where your competitiveness is coming in on those sub levels, because it's not coming in at the general level. You've already assigned that contract. And then sometimes it's difficult for a district to evaluate the validity of a GMP. I don't think for our team that's been the case. And like I said, the districts use this method quite extensively since about 2002. And then the last one that we use is kind of the simple one. This is what we consider like the small projects. It's not really for new construction. This is job order contracting, so it's for minor construction, repairs, or just upgrades to a facility. So this is where we come in, and if we've got to, say, move a wall or do some painting or do some minor fixes to a building, this maybe repair a roof. Some of that type of stuff is where you could go through a job order contract. There's the org chart. It's you kind of bid it, and then you can design it alongside. After they bid it, you kind of tell them, this is what I need. Give me a bid for building this wall, painting it, finishing out the room. And they can give you that, and then you can kind of work through the design while they construct it. You may or may not need an architect on board for this, so it's there if you need it, depending on the job order contract. You may just be hiring that directly through a general contractor and then having them build that. This is usually something that you're going to see maybe somewhere small stuff as low as $15,000, $20,000 jobs to upwards of a couple $100,000. I've seen projects in the millions for job order contract, but it just depends on what the scope is as to whether you really want to go that route or not. There's a pros, as I mentioned, suited for small in-house projects. The costing margin is determined usually against RS means or some other industry standard. And the cons is the competition is limited. You usually don't have too many of these people knocking down your door to try to get in here and do work. We currently, as a district, have about 3 that are approved. And so that makes it nice because we can kind of get 3 bids every time we need something done and kind of compare them against one another depending on if they have the availability to do the work. So our job order contracting group that we work with has done a great job for those little things. So the final thing, in general, we want to start with the end in mind. We make sure we define those project expectations, not only with our design team, but internally, of course, with our construction management team, and present those, obviously, to you, our expectations. Understand budget and scope, and then the last one kind of goes with anything you do, but communicate and do that multiple times. So kind of the overview there, I want to go back and just touch on the construction manager at risk and why we have this as the preferred method for moving forward and the recommendation for moving forward with the new elementary school. Because we're going into a new elementary school prototype, we're starting with a clean slate. And so I feel like it's very important to make sure you have a contractor's perspective when you're doing that. They can be very beneficial from the cost estimating side, especially when you're dealing with something new. And so I tend to believe, it's my belief, that if you're doing a brand new school that's never been built before, this is an added benefit to have them on the front end. They can do site investigation. They can critique the design. They can find areas to save you money throughout the design process and help, as an architect, sometimes we draw things that they just don't think are that easy to build. And so sometimes they can help provide better solutions. See you laughing, Mark. Engineers never do that, right? It's just the architects. They can help you to provide other solutions to maybe help you with that cost. And then that the construction manager at risk having that general that guaranteed maximum price that allows us to bring that to you at selection of moving forward and saying this is the guaranteed price, not to go over. I think this is great work, like I said, for new startup construction. I think it's really good for additions and renovations as well, because if they're on the design team to begin with, you can actually have them go out to the existing building. If you're trying to add on, they can actually do some investigative looks for you. They can peel back roofs, peel back walls, and see what's there, so there's no surprises as you get ready to send that bid out to the subcontractor group. The reason we've gone CSP on some of the other jobs is, to me, when you get past kind of that first or second design, especially if you're doing a prototype, this is where you'll hear me advocate for CSP. The fact is we should have worked out all the bugs in the first one or two of a prototype, and now you can really send that out to the market and let everybody very competitively bid, because you know all the little things that you had to work out, all the little mistakes or the little improvements that you made over the course of maybe siding it one or two times, and you get a lot better competitive advantage there knowing that you've done the building a couple of times. So those are kind of where my gauge is. Renovation, brand new facility, maybe see them at risk on those, and something that you're being repetitive or something that's a very easy, simple project that doesn't have a lot of working parts, CSP, I think, is a better alternative there. So what questions can I answer? I know there's a lot of information I just ran through.
I'm just curious what our pay schedule is. Like when we pick a general contractor, how do we set up how we pay them? Do we pay them some up front? Do we wait till it's completed throughout the process?
They will present us a schedule of values, which basically outlines everything that's in that job by trade. So we know exactly if the concrete bid was X, then we know that's the concrete bid. And then what we do is, and what any district does contractually, they can't invoice us for it unless it's in place. Product on site and in place. And so we gauge that as we see the construction going on. So when a pay app comes in, they may say, we're 50% done with concrete. Well, that's where Sarah and her construction managers are invaluable to the district, because they'll go out there and they'll say, yeah, you're about 50% done. Or they'll say, no, you're about 30% done. Why are you asking for 50% of the concrete dollars at this point? And so that's really what we're doing every month as we watch that construction move forward. When that pay app comes in, is Sarah and her team confirming it. Sarah then approves that. She sends it to me. I look it over and make sure I don't see anything wrong with it. I initial it, and then it goes on to our business operations to actually pay the invoice. So it was several checks and balances in place there.
Hey, Tim, when it came to Adams, what bid process did y'all use for that?
Adams, we used competitive seal proposal, so CSP. Adams is a distant cousin to Wilson. It was kind of Wilson was kind of the prototype for that middle school. Now, there were some adjustments made to Adams before it met the ground. But we felt like one thing is we had the same architect that did Wilson, so we felt like any of those things were kind of worked out. There wasn't a big drastic shift in any of the building components. And the other really significant piece to that is Adams got delayed in the design process. So the selection criteria was already made to go, or actually no selection criteria was made on how to deliver it. They started designing, and the district, prior to me showing up, had actually put that project on hold. So when I showed up, the drawings were at about 50% construction documents level, which means they're really close to the end of the design phase. And so if you were to go out and go construction manager at risk, you're losing that front end value because we'd already designed through almost 50% of the building and had it drawn on paper. And so I felt like the better thing to do at that point was to go competitive civil proposal, because we lose that front-end estimating, we lose that front-end knowledge of the CM at risk being there, because by the time we would have procured a construction manager at risk, we would have been at about 85 or 90% of the drawings being complete in order to get the job built on time. So that was probably the primary reason, along with it being a second site, a repeating of the second site of Wilson with some variations.
Okay, and then the campus before Adams, was it Eaton? Or did I miss a school? Is there another school in between?
That was the campus before was Eaton. That was the longest. That was CM at risk. So that one, the architect was hired. The contract was hired at the beginning with it was CM at risk, right? Asking Sarah because I wasn't here. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, the contractor was hired at the beginning of the design phase, so they were able to work through that new design entirely with the team.
Well, again, the reason I'm asking these questions is you mentioned on the CM at risk, one of the cons is you just don't know what subcontractors the construction manager has when you go in there. But with the companies that we've used for Eaton and now Adams, when it comes to the bid process and the committee meets, do they get some preferential treatment in a sense, so they get extra points, or is it just because they're bringing the reputation? Is that how that
probably
works?
A little bit of both. I think mostly the reputation. One of the things we do ask for in our qualifications when we put out that document, that request for qualifications, we actually do request that they give us a subcontractor list, so we know what subcontractors they plan on bringing to the table. Of course, they're going to have their most of the GCs that work in the education market in North Texas have a very strong following, especially the major trades. I will tell you, when we're doing a construction manager at risk and we get that to that bid day and we get something like a masonry bid and we only have 2 bidders show up on bid day for masonry, that's where we work really hard with the CM at risk. I'm looking over here because we have Representative Pogue here tonight, who has done several CM at risk for the district. But we work hand in hand with them to figure out why are we light. I mean, we want to see 3 or 4 in the major trades at least. Is really where you want to be. If it's a great one, you may get 5 or 6 as far as the timing and just who's available to do the work. But anytime you get to those major trades, and there's probably about 18 or so that are identifiable, that if you only get 1 or 2 bids, you start to question, and it may cause us to pull the bid and send it back out. Maybe we were up against another project bidding that we weren't aware of. Maybe the timing just didn't work. But it allows us that opportunity to visit with the general contractor and say, why are we light in these subs in this category? So I've seen that work as well too. But they work very diligently. They've already given, by that point, they've already given us a guaranteed maximum price. And so they're trying to do everything they can to make sure they're well below that guaranteed maximum price and deliver a good product to the district.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. McClure, my question goes to the CSP.
Okay, back up to that one so we can see it.
I think you said that there was 50% that went to the low bid in terms of
the value,
reviewed,
the weighting,
and 50% to qualifications. And what helped to establish that 50-50? Why not 70 low and 30 qualifications? Or
yeah, I think it's just a good balance. It could be anything. I've seen districts do a 70-30 or a 60-40, and you pick which side of the fence you want to be on. To me, it's just a good balance. It's not overweighting your ability to come in and undercut a bid, but it's not giving up on the evaluations of the actual team, so that you can have a good balance there. There's no magic percentage separation there.
My wondering was, if you were thinking that this was competitive, then, you might have a new person bidding that really came in with a better price, but you might not know them quite as well.
Sure.
And so I was just curious about that, because I think, competitive bidding is helpful to the bottom line.
Absolutely.
It can be challenging, I know, as you're going through the project, but it also keeps that neutrality in place.
Absolutely. I would say, Dr. Simpson, one of the things we've also seen is, depending on the economic times, when we were through the recession, I would see some of the actual qualification percentages go higher and the price come lower, because we knew we were in a recession and we were getting great prices, and we didn't want that to be the overwhelming factor over the qualifications of the team that were out there, because we were getting a lot of new people, because the commercial industry was down. The nice thing about schoolwork, and if I spoke for architects and general contractors, is you kind of got a cushion against recession, because most of, like our bond, it's passed for 3 or 4 years, so we're kind of, won't say recession proof. We still kind of gauge it against the homes that are being built. So if the homes slack off, we're not going to build just to build. But in that time, we did see the qualification percentage jump a little bit higher, so you made sure you were getting good contractors, because you knew the price was coming in low because the market and the economic standing of the times was lower then. Right now, the market's really competitive, and so I think that 50-50 balance doesn't put too much weight on the actual bid, and still allows us to balance it against the team that's coming in to make sure that we have the best overall value back to the district. But it could fluctuate. I mean, we hit a recession in 2 years. You may hear me in here saying we need to go 30% on the bid number because everything's coming in low, and let's go a little bit higher on our qualifications so we can make sure we're not just getting a team to come in here that low bids it and we don't know much about them because the low bid was so weighted so valuable that that the qualifications didn't matter. So we kind of take that by project and by year. Did that answer your question, Dr. Simpson? Okay. Well, no, yeah, absolutely, and it's very subjective. That piece is very subjective.
Yeah. All right, team, if y'all will continue to study this, Tim will be back with us next board meeting and give a formal recommendation of the design.
And one note there, at that time, a formal recommendation, work with Mark, and you will see, the qualifications and the weightings and everything that goes into that at that time for the formal recommendation. So, thank you.
You didn't let me quiz Tim. Man, I'll catch you later, Tim.
Excuse me.
Item number 9, reports. 2016-2017 Food Services District Effectiveness Report. Dr. Warren.
All right, we have our annual food services report from Aramark. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Dr. Warren and board. Thank you for letting me speak tonight about the annual review for Aramark Food Services. First off, I'm going to start with our 31-year partnership. Aramark started here in 1986. And you can see in 86, I'm just going to touch on a few of these. It was 6 schools and a little over 2,000 students. And then if you fast forward to 2017, we have 28 kitchens. This includes the OLC and admin dining. And we have 3 Java Cities, 3 Pizza Huts, 3 Subways, 3 Red Mangoes, and we run 127 vending machines as well as 11 concession stands now. So our program has grown over the years. As you can see, the TDA recognized us in 2007-2008 for piloting the first free fruit and vegetable carts. And then in 2014, we rolled it out to all elementary schools, which kind of rolls into the next slide when we talk about fun facts. Last year, we did 1.5 million meals in food service and a little over 200,000 pounds in fresh fruits and vegetables. Of that 200,000 pounds, 90,000 was for the free fruit and vegetable carts at the elementary schools. This program comes from commodity. It's the Department of Defense. So we set aside these funds every year just for the free fruit and vegetable cart. Of that, we did a little fun fact of oranges, which was 14,000 pounds, and cantaloupe, which was a little over 10. Just a little breakdown of what we serve at each campus. The elementary school has 4 entrees, fresh fruits and vegetables, and then we break down the fruits and vegetables accordingly. The middle school, we have 10 entrees, so there's a big jump from elementary to middle school, but we do like to offer more choices at the middle school level. We still have the standard fresh fruits and vegetables at that location. This year we are rolling out made to order at middle school, so we are very excited to start made to order tortilla line. So that's something we are going to start, and hopefully it goes over really, really well, just like at the high school. The high school, we go up to 14 entrees, plus the build your own lines. We have 3 build your own lines, which the students can go to every day, as well as the franchises. Just a little facts about food service. Food service is a self-sustaining program within the district here at Northwest. TDA regulates what we can and cannot spend with our funds, and to receive USDA, reimbursements, we must comply with guidelines and regulations from the government. This year we did the ACES Junior Chef Challenge, which we provided cookbooks to each of you. This year Ms. McKee won at Sendera Ranch, and we piloted her recipe on all schools across the board. It actually became a staple, so we are going to have it on our menu on a regular basis because it was a big hit at all campuses. So we were very grateful that she participated in this, and we ended up with a new recipe as a result of it. Lone Star Chef Challenge. Aramark hosted its 4th annual Lone Star Chef Challenge at Baylor in Waco this year. Byron participated for the first time this year and won 3rd place. Their recipe was the glazed chicken teriyaki, and we are going to feature it this September on the menu. This is an Iron Chef type challenge, and all the chefs within Aramark, Texas, get together and do this for the students to create a fun challenge for them. This one is very exciting. This is new. We created and piloted the Junior Chef Academy here at Northwest this summer. It's definitely had its challenges, but it was very rewarding. Students actually came in, and we taught them basic culinary skills, and then we taught them 2 recipes a day, and it was all handmade items for an entire week. We hosted it at Pike Middle School, and we had 16 students participate over the summer. It was $50 per student, and it was a lot of fun. I want to thank Lynn for helping us with this. We definitely had to work with her to make sure we could not do certain things because we had to make sure the students were safe, and we were keeping within district guidelines. So this was a fun challenge. This challenge, Aramark is now going to roll it out to all school districts to have a summer cooking class. So we were very excited to pilot this and create this here at Northwest. Our community engagement, we do Fill the Bus Challenge with Durham. We partnered with them 3 years ago, and we have collected over 21 tons of food for local food banks. And we give this food to food banks within the Northwest ISD territory. We let the principals choose, or if they choose not to, we make sure that the food is evenly distributed among the program. The reindeer romp, that was our first time this year. We donated bottled water and healthy snacks to participants in the race. And then we also opened it up to our team and let them participate as well for Aramark. Our Angel Tree, we picked 3 students this year, and there's a little picture of everything that we got. And we opened it up to all 180 employees, and this is how much we got in donations for the 3 students this year. 16-17, we took over concessions with partnering with athletics to help them maintain the concessions program for boosters. We got a year-to-date revenue of $324,000, and we gave $129,000 back to boosters after all bills were paid. So this was a fun process, and we are excited to start the new year again running this program and giving a return to boosters, and we hope to continue to give them this return. We hosted our annual food show this year at Northwest. Next year it will be at Byron. We take turns at every school, and we showcase current recipes as well as future recipes, and we let students and parents vote on these recipes, on whether or not we should bring them in or not. So that was a fun event at Northwest After Hours in April. We also had a student viewpoint survey at all secondary schools, and almost 5,000 students participated in this survey. The goal of this survey is to find out where we're going and where we need to be to see if we are meeting the students' expectations, whether we need to take something off the menu or add something to the menu. Here's some breakfast promotions that we tried this year. We piloted smoothies, that's what's on the far left, and then we also created fun donut recipes, and then we had chicken and waffles at breakfast and lunch on some days. So Donut Wednesdays was started this year, and it actually increased breakfast participation. National School Breakfast Week, we also highlighted a new breakfast recipe every day of that week just to get students interested in trying something new. Off on the right, that is our student viewpoint survey results based on what students wanted to see for breakfast. So we definitely started tailoring what they wanted to see for breakfast into the menu. We rolled out handmade pizzas at all schools this year. It was an undertaking, but we definitely got it done, and it definitely provides a better quality product to the students. It's made fresh, made daily, and it's something that they wanted besides the traditional square pizza that they used to be served. We also launched a limited online ordering program at the high school, which we hope to expand this coming year. We hosted 23 Thanksgiving buffets this year. We host one at almost every elementary, and then the high schools participate as well as the middle schools. And we served about 8,000 visitor meals during those 23 events. So we definitely had a lot of parents participate in this event, so it's very fun. ACE Day, we do a once-a-month ACE promotion. We gave about 17,000 this year. Something new that started a couple years ago was the fuel promotions. We run fuel promotions of new recipes at the secondary level, and if it's a big hit, we actually roll it out district-wide, even to the elementary menus, if we feel that elementary students will like that option. And then there's some basic food promotions that we do for the year. We do all national holidays, and then, of course, Dr. Seuss, and then breakfast for lunch is a favorite. Employee engagement. This is just highlighting what we do for the managers to keep employees happy and make sure we do enough rewards and recognition. At the end of the year, we do a huge event, and we tie it in with Aramark's Employee Appreciation Day, and we invite all 180 employees in, and we serve them dinner, and we have a huge award ceremony, and then vendors donate giveaways for the night. So the big ones that we do are Customer Service of the Year Award. We definitely focus on that. It is a standard of Aramark to make sure we are providing that level of customer service to our students. And then the other ones we do are Kitchen of the Year for secondary and Kitchen of the Year for elementary. Community partner sponsorships. This year is the first year that Aramark sponsored the end-of-year PTA dinner. So we are very pleased to do that for the PTA this year, and we hope to continue this tradition for years to come. Eaton's big event, we hosted breakfast and lunch to all volunteers at Eaton this year. So that's always a fun event on Saturday, so we hope to expand that program as well. So these are our focus areas within food service. And workforce planning is a big one, and investing in human capital, participation growth at all campus levels, and breakfast growth. So when it comes to human capital, we definitely like to invest in our program. And this last year, we spoke to the employees about what they wanted to see and what they needed to make sure they had the tools available to them to be successful. And a lot of them talked about hands-on training. So we implemented hands-on training to all employees prior to sending them out there to work. So we in the office, the chef, the dietitian, and anybody, supervisor, we all get together and we train this employee before we put them in a kitchen. It's just basic skills training, lasts about 4 hours, but it's definitely beneficial. They definitely go into the kitchen with more skills than they had the day before. We offer sign-on bonuses and referral bonuses within our program. We have mid-year pay increases for all employees. And we also monitor pay and benefits from the local school districts to make sure we're remaining competitive, as well as with businesses. So we've increased our minimum wage over the years, and we are now at $10.25 an hour. Participation growth. We are looking at expanding to a premium entree at the high schools. This would be an option at the home zone where it would still be free and reduced to the free and reduced students, but it would be a slight upcharge from the $2.55 that the paid students pay. We're still working out pricing, but we are looking at recipes like pork tenderloin, brisket sliced right on the line. So we're definitely exploring these premium options to increase participation at the high schools. We're also going to expand our online ordering program. We're working with a vendor that currently works with Aramark Higher Education. So we're hoping to expand this program to work on our made-to-order lines, as opposed to ordering salads or sandwiches. So we're hoping to grab more students that way. We're going to try to offer more grab-and-go snacks and carts. So we're looking at pricing and options for that as well. Since the point-of-sale program is now wireless, we can definitely go out into the schools and sell more to the students. We are also going to reevaluate a la carte pricing this year. We did not go up on meals this year when traditionally in the past we have to based on USDA regulations. We met the guidelines this year, so we do not have to go up pricing on meals. So we're going to look at reevaluating a la carte pricing for the year. Breakfast growth. This is the carts that we are looking at implementing at some of the schools to capture more students. This is a grab-and-go option, and it's to capture students at breakfast or during Invest time at Northwest or Bobcat time at Byron. So it's definitely an option to grab more meals when the students are wandering the hallways. It makes you more mobile. So we're going to accommodate students who have limited time to eat breakfast, offer grab-and-go items, and then we're also going to communicate with the principals that when it comes to breakfast, we can stay open till 9:59. So if there's a late bus or something happened or an emergency, we can definitely still provide breakfast to those students at no inconvenience to us, but we would definitely like to feed them if they need to be. So we're definitely going to increase communication with principals this year. Is there any questions about the program?
You're making me hungry.
We didn't make you too sleepy tonight, right?
Sounds like a wonderful program. I'm just curious, at the elementary level, what kind of feedback are you getting with regard to the food and choices?
We do small focus groups. This year we are going to roll out, we're actually going to request to sit down with students and actually get their feedback. Because as of right now, there's no real, other than sitting down with them. So they definitely, every time you sit down with them, it's more chicken nuggets and more pizza. So it's definitely trying to find that healthy balance. Yeah. So we talk to them, but we're looking at doing focus groups in the spring.
I was just thinking that from what I understand, elementary could use a little attention, and I know that's tricky. But I think, the earlier they learn to appreciate
Correct.
Choices, the better.
With the elementary, it's been a few years, but my son always complained about the green hot dogs in elementary. Is that because of the turkey dogs?
Right, and it's the way you cook them as well.
And he had that year, he had the last lunch, so as the day went on, they got greener. So as someone who loved hot dogs, I didn't eat them. But is it still the same way?
No, right now we actually do 100% beef hot dogs.
Okay, good.
And it's all on the way you cook them as well. That's why we have these hands-on trainings beforehand, because if they cook them in the steamer as opposed to the oven, you do get that discoloration. So we have started programs and teaching them how to cook. We have once a month cooking classes with the chef to help them learn those kind of skills. But no, we do 100% hot dogs now, 100% beef hot dogs now.
Okay, good. The one thing that started getting me involved with the district is at the committee with the shack was the fruit and vegetable cart. I was there when it rotated schools. And I thought that's a great idea, and I'm glad to see that it's at all the schools and it's here to stay. So I think that's just amazing. So kudos to y'all for getting that. But I know I think it was you I talked to at the vendor fair a while back, but it's a question I ask y'all every time I see you. Does the USDA still consider French fries a vegetable?
Yes, it is a vegetable.
Really?
And we do not fry them in-house. They are par fried, and then we finish them off in the oven, baking them.
Do y'all use that as a crutch for vegetables to make sure you get that vegetable serving, or do y'all look at other options?
No, we have to meet a guideline of colors. They actually call them color groups now, and we have red, orange, green, starch, other. And so we have to make sure we meet a healthy balance. We just can't throw French fries on the menu every day. We do have to have that healthy balance, and you have to meet so many in those colors every 5 days.
Okay.
So we do have those options. Of course, at the high school, it's on the burger line every day, but there's also fresh fruits and vegetables on the line as well.
Okay. But the one thing when I was looking at your presentation, the extra stuff y'all do, I think is amazing, especially with the junior chefs, the competition for the cookbook and the academy. I mean, it makes sense since we've got a culinary academy in our district. It's just you're training you're getting future students excited about that academy. So
correct.
It's a good program. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Very innovative ideas, I must say. And so we'll have to show up and have some green hot dogs with Steve. Thank you, Ms. Rowley. We appreciate your report.
It was because they were turkey hot dogs, and then they food colored them to make them look like regular hot dogs.
Picky.
Yeah.
Still picky.
Part of the challenge of food service is that at the high school, of course, we broke free from the national guidelines and but at the elementary school, you're tied to it pretty hard because of the free and reduced lunch volume there you have at the elementary. So, and they're pretty stringent guidelines, to say the least. And they get into ketchup packets and salt and stuff like that.
Do green hot dogs count as a vegetable? I don't know. Anyway, number 9.
Only on St. Patrick's Day.
9B, Student Investment Report. Dr. Warren.
Board, your monthly investment report begins on page 1285. Mr. Gresswich, any comments?
I would point out that the financial report is not included in June because that is subject to the auditor and will be brought to you in November. The investment report is here in its entirety. We haven't made a lot of investments for the last few months, but we got everything laddered out in August from the bond issue. We've been working with Tim on the cash draw schedule, and now that that's been finalized, the investments are laddered out. You just won't see it till the August report. Be happy to answer any questions.
I guess that would be no, Mr. Gresswich, so thank you. Do we have money to spend yet? Never mind. We'll go on to the next item. 9C, demographic report.
Board, the demographic report begins on page 1320 in your packet. Mr. McClure.
Evening, Board. Unfortunately, Mr. Templeton is fallen ill tonight, but serving in his place is Rocky Gardner, also with, obviously, Templeton Demographics is here, as well as Michelle Box in the audience as well, and they have the demographic report for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Rocky.
That's right. Thank you. Dr. Warren, Board, it's a pleasure to be here, and I guarantee Bob would be here if he could, because he'd much rather be here than where he's at, I'm afraid. And I do have Michelle with me tonight, and she's the manager of our research team and does all the housing research, and so she's kind of good to have here in case there's some questions come along that I can't help you with. This is our second quarter housing report, so again, this is data that was collected through June of this year. So just understanding the time frame is important. Economic conditions in Dallas-Fort Worth continue to be very strong. We're adding about almost 90,000 jobs a year. Our unemployment rate's well below 5%, and we've now started over 31,000 homes in the last 12 months. In Northwest ISD, your annual closings are at 1,681. So these are homes that have closed and are occupied. Starts are at 1,908. Closings have slowed down just a little bit, but that's just because and your BDLs dropped off a little bit. But as you'll see later in the report, that's gonna they're working hard. You've seen the construction continues out there, and they'll be delivering lots to make that up. And you can see here from your quarterly starts that Northwest ISD is still starting close to 500 homes a quarter, which this takes us back to 2006, the last time they were doing things like that. So well over 10 years. Closings, they tend to trail a little bit behind it. And so the second quarter, they closed 587 homes, and will probably be close to 600 again this quarter. There's 555 homes under construction as of the end of June. And of course, the third quarter, which is July, August, and September, is always a very strong quarter as well, leading up to school starting. If we look at where those closings occurred, you can see the top 10 here. They're led by, the Harvest, the part of Harvest that's in Northwest ISD. They closed 162 homes. You've got 160 Sendero Ranch. Canyon Falls at 143. You can see the tops there by the size. The darker colored attendance zone represents the attendance zones that have had the most closings in any one quarter. So these closings are what has brought the growth to this point. Now, going forward, your growth comes from your vacant developed lots. These are lots that are on the ground and ready to be built on today. 715 closings by these top 10, and they've got 1,129 VDL. So these top 10 have enough VDL to continue the pace that they've had in previous years. And 70%, I think, of those VDLs, of your total VDL, are in those 10 developments there. If we look at future distribution, again, you see a lot of red, a lot of high activity. That just means there's over 3,000 future homes planned in each of those attendance zones there. So again, very strong growth, led by Pecan Square, Sendero Ranch North. Sendero Ranch North isn't actually labeled, but it's the big dot. I think you're pretty sure you might know where that is, but that label that didn't show up there. Again, you've got just 10 developments with over 18,000 homes. we look at it by attendance zone, so this is kind of a nice way to encapsulate things. You see that the different colors represent how many developments in each of those categories. What I think is the most interesting in these categories is your under construction and your inventory. Under construction, 555 homes. Your inventory is at 839. Keep in mind, inventory includes the under construction 555, but then it adds another over 300 finished vacant lots. So those 839 are kind of what's in the pipeline for this third quarter. So that kind of tells you that this third quarter is going to pick up a little bit and continue in that 500 to 600 range. This chart here kind of shows all your development spread out, and that third bullet is what I want to point out. There's 2,800 lots currently under development. So these are lots that are part of that future, those 28,000 futures that we talked about. They've got 2,800 lots that are under development. So that's strong development that continues to replace the vacant developed lots that are going right now. Multifamily housing, the little numbers there represent different developments that are either future developments in Northwest ISD or under construction. You can see a little bit of purple. Number 6 and number 4 are under construction, and number 2 is actually under construction as well. All of that color does not represent that. Now, we have to kind of go back and forth to see what these represent. I just kind of want to point out that a couple of these are, they're marketed towards the elderly. The number 2 that I showed there was preference, was elderly preference. So you've got some stuff under construction there. But again, 1,877 planned units that are going to come online in the next 2 to 3 years. One of those, that real little one down there, it's number 6, that actually straddles the Keller ISD boundary and Northwest ISD boundary. So that apartment complex is going to maybe have 1 building or 2 buildings that will be in Northwest ISD. That'll be kind of interesting when that kind of gets finished there. And of course, then we can get into some pictures of developments. Oak Creek Trails at Champion Circle and Champion Circle, these are very familiar to y'all. Just to give you an idea of how fast things can kind of change, at the end of the second quarter, Champion Circle had 6 homes under construction. Michelle drove through that on the way out tonight, and she said she saw about 30 homes that are currently under construction. So they've delivered now, and they're going to do 150 to 180 homes this year. Also, Champion Circle continues to do well as well, with 40 homes under construction. Tradition with 1,130 total future lots. You can see there, and 300 multifamily lots. Trails of Elizabeth Creek with 1,200 future lots. Again, these are going to be delivering very shortly. And of course, you got the preliminary plat approved back in October 16 in River's Edge. We just haven't seen any movement there. Berkshire here with 760 total lots. And Revelstoke, I think Revelstoke is where your school site, there's a school site there, right? Okay, number 18's there. 255 total homes going to be around that school site there. And groundwork's underway with phase 1. And Hawthorne Meadows is also up there with 276 future lots. Sure.
You may also, Board, just note when we were going back to the slide where Rocky was talking about the multifamily, this is that same area. So, we've got property in Revelstoke that we're about to move on construction on. Actually should be moving dirt already. Sarah gives me the heads up, yes. Of course, Nance is right there on the page. You see Peterson at the top. And then in Berkshire, we also own a piece of property that you approved the purchase for as well. So remember, we got 4 elementaries pretty tight right down there, but that multifamily is what we really think. I mean, the homes are there to support the 4, but that multifamily we're really watching to make sure so we have ample room in those 4 elementaries at build out of those 4, whenever that is.
Thank you. Thanks. Sendera Ranch, of course, 4,500, almost 4,600 total lots. So we know the activity that's going on there within 2 elementary zones. You're looking at almost 10,000 homes that are going to be built. They closed 80 homes in each of the last 2 quarters there in the Thompson zone. So strong growth continues at Sendera Ranch. Here we're showing Wellington with 1,622 total future lots. You've got the phase 1 with 507 lots that have groundwork underway. Willow Ridge with 777 total lots, and Dorado Ranch with 810 lots. Strong growth continuing there. Pecan Square and Avalon at Argyle, these again are some pretty strong developments. We're showing approximately 3,400 planned homes there at Pecan Square, but we know that number actually could be closer to 2,800 as they rework some of that there. So that's just an approximation there. We've heard numbers as low as 2,800. Avalon and Argyle, that was originally approved for 334 lots, and so they've been doing some rezoning there, but they think they're going to get 531 lots there in Northwest ISD. And Canyon Falls continues to build about 150 homes a year as well. Prairie Point's got 900 planned future lots. The zoning for the PD there at 2017 by the city of Rome. They anticipate groundwork starting by the end of 2017 and home building by 2019 there. Finally, these are enrollment projections. These should be the same projections that Bob showed you at the last quarter. We haven't made any adjustment to projections based on anything that we've changed here. So we're showing growth of 6,330 students in 5 years. Close to, you're looking at over 1,000 students per year going forward. Close to 1,500 students. At a certain point, to over 35,000 students in 10 years in Northwest ISD. We look at these elementary campuses here, you can see we're looking at 500 to 700 new students per year going forward. And where you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, this is the slides that keep me up at night because all that yellow means we're over. Just note that if I was to go through here, I won't for the sake of time, but if I was to go through here within the next year when we open Elementary 18, when we do some additions to Beck and Hughes, we're going to affect 6 of those lines. We're going to push that yellow back out 3 or 4 years on at least 6 of our campuses just next year when we start the school this time next year. So those are those bond dollars having an immediate effect of us being able to slide that scale back out. And so just want to make that point for this slide.
At the secondary campuses, again, the overcrowding for the next 3 or 4 years. You can see the yellow there that represents that. We're looking at 300 students at the middle school level and close to 300 students at the high school each year as well.
And again, just to repeat, this doesn't have middle school 6, which opens next year, so that will provide relief at both Chisholm and Tidwell. And this doesn't have in effect the additions that will start coming online at Byron Nelson, which will help Byron Nelson. So again, some relief coming in the very near future there on those.
In summary, the unemployment rate's below 5% in Dallas-Fort Worth area. They closed, Northwest ISD's close to 600 homes in the second quarter, and we think those closing rates are going to continue to pick up going into the end of this year. More than 1,900 annual new home starts. We're expecting 23,160 students next week.
Yeah,
next week. Yeah. So we should be here. So they're still coming. We think 28,000 students in 5 years and over 35,000 students within 10 years. That's all I got. We'd be happy to take questions. I know that I may not know the district as well as Bob does, but Michelle's with me here too, so we could probably answer most questions you might have.
So with the bond package, the projections that the bond package was advertised on and passed, is that still looking good? Is the bond still going to be adequate? The projects in the bond still going to be adequate, or are we kind of behind the power curve already?
Yeah, no, I think the projects in the bond are going to be adequate. They're always adequate. It's just a matter of if they're going to be done in 3 years or 5 years. Okay. I mean, it's just we're going to keep up with the pace of the growth, whatever that is. Okay. And right now, we anticipated growing, I think the number was like 6,800 students in the next 5 years or something like that. And then if you took the bond package plus the stuff that we were delivering, both Elementary 18 and Adams Middle School, which were not part of the bond package, that was supplying us like 7,500 seats. So we're staying about 1,000, maybe a little less than 1,000 ahead of the projected growth with our bond package, with what we're delivering.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, guys? That's a great report. Thank you. Appreciate you guys staying. Brings us down to number 9D, 2017 anticipated bond schedule. Dr. Warren.
All right, board, last report. Tim is going to bring you, I think this is going to be a very interesting report. He's going to roll through this report and just kind of give you this is really the first big draft of our build schedule, just to let you know what he feels will be appropriate and how to administer the 2016 bond projects as we get them on the ground. So Tim, please.
Yes, sir. Okay, so first of all, just a quick reminder, we all know that the $399 million bond package was there. I'm just going to real quickly remind you, 66% was growth. There's a dollar amount. I've bullet pointed what falls below that. Not to rehash everything, but just you can kind of have a refresher there. 13% of the bond, $51.2 million towards student programs, 9% towards technology, 8% towards aging and deficiencies, and then, of course, 4%, $14.1 million towards safety and security. So we delivered the bond, and we planned for the bond in 5 main areas. What we're going to look to now is how we deliver it, and what I've done is categorize everything into 4 main areas. So the new facilities, the renovations, the additions and renovations, and then the additional items that really are not necessarily facility driven. So there it is as a snapshot, and I know nobody can read that. I didn't intend for you to. I colored them by those 4 categories so you can kind of see how they outlay over the next 4 years. And to the point that was just made, I think this is a 4 to 5 year delivery. We obviously monitor growth, and if we think something needs to come on this line a little bit earlier, obviously if it's later out, we can maybe have an ability to do that. We're still got to balance against the rate that we promised the taxpayers and what John and I work closely with. So we can't bring it all up to the front and sell it, because we'd shoot that rate through the roof. But this is where we feel the balance is for right now as we monitor the growth in the area. So there's those new facilities up top, the additions and renovations in the middle, just the renovation and deficiency work there in the green, and then the additional items. So let's look at each one of those independently. I tried to set this slide up to kind of give you the easiest graphic depiction of what's going on. So you have the timeline there in the middle. Above the timeline is the arrow and the descriptor of when the design process starts. And then below the timeline is the anticipated construction schedule. And I use that word anticipated. It's on the top of every one of these slides, just so everybody knows this really is not set in stone. Of course, the stuff that we're delivering, Elementary 19, and those discussions we're having about CM at risk, delivery method on that. Of course, those things are more set in stone than the stuff that's further out, but anticipated because we really watched. We have so many pockets of growth in our district that we're planning for it, but if we see a burst somewhere, we may have to flip-flop a project or two to accommodate if we see something like that happen. But right now, things are looking good. You can see the new facilities there, the new elementary, the natatorium, and the other 3 elementaries to come online as well. We'll move forward into the additions and renovations. So this is anything that has an actual added building component being added to it, as well as internal renovations. So you can see a lot of buildings being touched there, a lot at the middle school and high school level. Again, remember, we're filling out the model there. That's filling those high schools out to that 32 to 3,300 capacity, filling those middle schools out to that 1,200 capacity, making room for those fine arts programs and career and technology programs. So that's the bulk of that, as well as some of those. We have 3 elementary additions in there. Hughes is the first one, that one you see existing at elementary schools. The second, we anticipate that to be in the Sendera Ranch community, most likely Sendera Ranch. And then the third one probably being the other one in Sendera Ranch, Thompson, with the growth that we're going to see over the next 4 or 5 years in the core center part of our district. So there's kind of that piece. If we move on to this is just renovations. This is really the security control, the access control of all our buildings, and the improved entry security improvements. That'll be taking place. We'll start working on that throughout this year. We'll try to take a building at a time and make those little vestibules and create that scenario where people are checking in at the front door, so we have a much more safe environment as someone's entering our building. So you'll see that start to take place over the next year. And then as you move further out, some of that is that deficiency work that we've pushed out a little bit so we can get the seats available and then come back on as we get towards the end of the bond program and start to upgrade some of those deficiencies. Some of those things are life cycle costs that was presented in the bond work, like roof replacements and mechanical unit replacements and things like that. And so we're going to let those go a little bit longer to try to get as much life out of them as we can. And then the last one, the additional items, of course, the big difference if I flip back, again, the design start dates are up top, and then the delivery of construction is down below. Of course, no design start dates for these things. They don't necessarily need them, so this is just kind of general items. You can see the land acquisition, which will basically take place from now through the entire bond program. Don't really know when we'll be purchasing land along the way, but we know we will. The safety and security cameras, and the intercom and phone systems, those are deliverables that we're going through a very tedious process. Me and Adam find going through that process of as we bring a campus offline or as we see a security camera start to fail, we come in and we try to replace it. So we're trying to draw those dollars out and the utilities of those services out as much as possible. Of course, the student device and the teacher device refresh. Again, Adam has a plan for that. The furniture, classroom furniture refresh, you'll see that happening over the next couple of years as we get into replacing that 20-plus-year-old furniture. And then more technology items that will come online in 19 as far as the infrastructure and then more student device refresh there. So that's it. Pretty fast pace there for that presentation. Any questions on delivery? Okay, I'm leaving the podium.
Very good work.
I'm glad we have a schedule, Tim. That's very detailed.
Thank you. We're moving fast. Sarah and her team didn't give them enough credit. They do an extra job making sure the projects are coming to fruition as they should.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. That moves us down to item number 10, consider any item removed from the consent agenda, and that was item number Q, which is the Memorandum of Understanding with North Central Texas College for Dual Credit Partnership. I'll turn that over to Mr. Fuller. Go ahead and ask your question.
I was actually hoping to get a little bit more detail about it than just
I believe we're coming up.
ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
Well, I think the number one question that Mr. Fuller had, and that Dr. Thornell and I talked about today, was about the price associated, the tuition associated that North Central Texas charges us, and why they are charging us.
Currently, we don't have a model that allows for an early college high school, so therefore our tuition is not exempt or free. The only time that we do see an exemption is when a student is deemed low socioeconomic, qualifies for the paperwork, and they get 6 hours free per semester. Anything above 6 hours is at full tuition rate. But that's our current model that works with the district. That is the set price that we've been given from North Central Texas College. All of our other partners, when you look at, if we were to go with TCC, a majority of our students don't live in Tarrant County, therefore they don't pay ad valorem tax, and they would be paying out of district as well. And it's about the same price.
I guess, it seems like for 20 plus years we've been going back and forth with NCTC about waiving tuition, which they can do. They don't have to be in early college to do it. They can waive it. They receive about $130, $140 per 3-hour course. And that goes above and beyond giving a stipend to our teachers that we're supplying the overhead. I would just like for us, to look at the price, to also look at the idea of being equitable among campuses. So we have 3 distinct campuses that could possibly support dual credit. I know that the numbers are really small at our comprehensive high schools. I know that our numbers are relatively big at Steele, but at the same time, if we're supplying them with our students, I just don't see any give back from NCTC. So I would just like for us to, really this year possibly work at finding, if there are other partners, if there's a UNT, if there's a Texas Women's, even a TCC, and to really look at those partners that really want to partner with us and want to work with us for all kids, not just for the kids that can afford a $200-300 tuition. And I know we have a good program going with on-ramps, but that doesn't support all kids. It supports a group. And so, my main reason to bring this up and pull it from consent, Mr. President, had to do with, I just want us to be clear that from my perspective, we need to do more in pushing back with NCTC that we have been, more than we have been in the last 20 years. Because it's the same thing each and every year with them. So that's all I had to say.
So have we looked at alternatives? Are there alternatives available?
There's several alternatives as far as if we were to go with TCC and their model that they offer. Unfortunately, you would not have equitable access in your campus. So because they don't offer a flat rate to students that actually, they don't offer any free rate available for us at this time. And if we were to have two students, one that lives in Denton County and one that lives in Tarrant County, those students would be paying different prices to sit in the same exact class. For NCTC, it is a flat rate across the board. At this time, we don't have anything that qualifies us for what they would call a JET grant that allows us to have a CTE, early college high school. We haven't had anything to push forward there, so we couldn't involve a relationship with TCC or anybody else to offer it for free. El Centro College doesn't offer us anything currently for free. They've actually lost all of their grant funding, and we've had to restructure our model with our students in culinary even. So there's not anybody out there right now that's offering it for free with the exception of the on-ramps program that we currently have, and we haven't pushed for negotiation any further to ask for it free. Unfortunately, the past has set a standard where NCTC basically put their flag in Northwest ISD and said, we are your provider, and up until a few years ago, that was who we were saddled with. And so there wasn't an option, and now it is open, and we have been using the on-ramps program. Last year we had 701 students enrolled in on-ramps, and that was free. And so we do utilize any alternative that we can to get students the opportunities as much as possible. But we are completely open to finding new friends.
Mr. President?
Mr. Fuller.
I move for the, what am I moving? The memorandum of understanding with North Central Texas College for dual partnership, as recommended by the administration.
A motion has been made by Mr. Fuller, seconded by Mr. Wright, to accept the memorandum of understanding with the North Central Texas Dual Credit Partnership. Is there any further discussion on this item? I do appreciate you bringing it up, Mel. It's important that we do look at all alternatives.
I would just like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
So are you looking for the next academic year?
Yeah, I mean, it's too late in the game. I mean, we would leave kids hanging if we waited. I mean, and I know that has nothing to do with the administration's fault. I know where the fault lies, and that's not with NISD.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. That brings us down to the President's Report. Wow. Getting close to the end. Just as a reminder, as if we didn't know, convocation is coming up next Monday. There at the Gateway Church in Southlake. The band begins at 12:30, so don't miss it. Get your reservations in early. Northwest Metro Port Legislative Luncheon is Friday, September the 1st at 11 a.m. That's at the DFW Marriott Championship Parkway right down the street. So please let Jennifer know if any of you would like to attend. And lastly, please keep in mind on your calendar, the Team of 8 training is coming up Monday, September the 18th. 5:30 to midnight. Dinner will be provided. Dr. Denise Collier will say, not quite that long, but that's all that I have. So I'm going to move that on down to the superintendent's report. Dr. Warren.
Board, one second. And Mr. Fuller, did you have anything to report on our on the TASB legislative initiatives?
Yeah, and I'll I will be brief. We do have the special session still ongoing for 2 more days. So back on July the 18th and August the 1st, we had about 40 board members from all over the state on the 18th and about 50 board members on the 1st go to the Capitol. We were introduced on both the House and Senate floors. On the 18th, on the 1st, we were just introduced on the House floor because the Senate had adjourned for 3 days. After that, we were able to have individual meetings. We met with the Speaker. We met with Representative Huberty. There were a number of other representatives that came in. If you'll notice, I didn't mention any senators. We were not able to meet with any senators at that time, but we did on the 1st, we did go to the governor's office, the lieutenant governor's office. We made rounds to everyone. Josh went with me also on the 1st, and Josh got us in to see Representative Krause. We also visited with Tan, Parker, and Gio Capriglione. And all of those, it was interesting on the timing of visiting, especially with Representative Krause, right after they had taken a vote. And so we had a really good, frank discussion with him. A couple of things that came from it. All of these board members are part of different consortiums, both from Austin, Houston, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and a number of them have some different ideas about really getting the word out locally, more of a grassroots effort. There's an idea of taxparency. There's already a website that Plano developed that I've shared with both you, Dr. Warren, and John, about us participating in that, showing where our taxes actually go. Also, there's an idea about presenting a large check to the state, and it's just a big blow-up check, but how much we pay back, and having news releases with our great communication staff doing that for us. The idea of education, block voting, and also rating of current legislators. A number of boards are actually giving their own ratings to their own legislators, and so that's already caused a little bit of stir. And, we also were able to meet with Ross Ramsey from the Texas Tribune. He came and spoke to us. And Grover Campbell, who is part of TASB, he is the legislative head for TASB, he told us that a number of high-ranking senators asked why he was setting up these meetings, and he said, "I'm not. This is all school board members doing it. It's all grassroots," and they kind of backed down. So it was good events, and I think it got people kind of motivated about getting down there and really looking at that it's education that's the problem, not all these other things that we're talking about. And a number of board members, we're going to continue to meet, continue to email, and really continue to get the word out.
One really good question that Mel asked during his travels down there, I believe he was in the middle of a talk when he texted me. The state portion of the total public ed bill now is about 39%. 30 years ago, that was 60%. So they've consistently gone down. So on average, the state pays 39% of the total bill, and you get a little bit of percentage from the federal government, and then most of it is paid by the taxpayers of Texas. In NISD, those numbers turn into about 18% of the money that we get comes from the state. Probably about 2 to 3% from the federal government. So almost 80% of our budget comes from our folks, from us who own property in the land. So that's where we are as a state right now.
There's one other thing. We did meet with Senator Huffines the first time we went down there, and he was asking. I was with a group from Grapevine, Colleyville, and Coppell, and Louisville, and he asked, "How much do you spend on transportation for regular ed students versus special ed students?" And I sent an email, and I think you replied back, is over $10,000 for special ed students, correct? And he was astonished. He said, I didn't know it was that high. I just figured it was double the cost of regular ed students. So we were able to clarify some points. Not that it helped, but, at least we kind of got their attention, some of them, I believe. Thanks.
Good. You bet. Board, last couple of things. Again, calendar issues. If you are at all interested, a very neat thing's going to happen this coming Saturday, back to school fair. Many families have signed up to come up and get services from those folks. They're doing a phenomenal job between Galderma and EECU. All the stuff, the bus, backpacks that we're going to hand out. It's a wonderful activity. That's going to happen at 9 o'clock, starting at Pack Middle School on Saturday, and then next week, supporters. We've got hundreds of kids going to be rolled out to the community. We have Meet the Texans on Monday night, August 21st. We have Meet the Bobcats on Wednesday, and Meet the Eagles on Thursday, all at 6:30 p.m. So come out, and there'll be a lot of community members at our facilities doing that. It's a neat time. It's a neat time of year. Mr. President, that's all I have.